Hi, this is Wald Amberstone from the Tarot School, and you're listening to 7 Minutes with Rachel Pollack. Welcome, Rachel.
Thank you.
We're very, very happy that once again you'll be teaching at the Reader Studio. You've been there more than once. In fact, you've been there many times, and we look forward to that happening again in the future. But you're going to be teaching at Reader Studio at 2014, and we want to thank you for talking with us today.
Yes, thank you very much. Yeah.
You're very welcome. And I'm so glad that we have people, really interesting people, really great people to talk with, because our audience is becoming more and more sophisticated as time goes along. And what we're going to do here is actually a fairly sophisticated thing. I'm going to ask you a question that is an interesting question, a personal question, and yet one that everybody, I think, can relate to, and it will make a difference to people to hear it. My question to you is this. Rachel, you're one of the truly preeminent people in the tarot universe of the day. You're also a writer. You're a thinker. You're a teacher. You're an artist. You're a traveler. Do you identify yourself primarily as one or a combination of these? Or do you possibly have a secret identity? Something that the rest of us don't know about and would love to hear.
Well, I think anyone has some kind of at least fantasy secret identity. And I like to joke, my dog is named Wonder Girl. I like to sort of, say with the sense of a hint that Wonder Girl was the sidekick of Wonder Woman. You can draw your own conclusions. And then my fantasy secret identity is a high-stakes poker player, which I hasten to add, I don't do at all. I like poker, but I would never, ever play for serious stakes. So it's just, that's my fantasy. But in a certain sense, the essence of what I do is fantasy, or more specifically, imagination. I think of myself more and more really over the years as a champion of the imagination. If there was a card next tarot that was the Knight of Imagination, that might be how I would see myself. And really the Knight rather than the Queen or King. And the reason I say that is because I feel like I'm always active. The Queen, I feel, is the master of the element. And the King is the person with authority to make decisions and responsibility to take action in the world. But to me, the Knight is the person who is always going out and seeking. And I would say that that's kind of always what I do. And I always feel like I'm trying to open up people to imagination, to their own imagination, to the imagination that exists in traditions. So in the tarot, whereas many people in the tarot want to find the kind of ultimate secret, where they want to find a strict system of knowledge in which everything fits into place, I've never had that approach. My approach is always to see what stories there are, to see what lurks within the pictures, to see how they can inspire us, how we can see the story of our lives in the cards, and so on. And following this life goal of imagination and being a knight of the imagination, I've done many things. As you said, I've done art, I've written comic books, I've done fiction, and fiction is probably my first love, since I didn't even start writing about tarot until well after I was writing fiction. So I've created a tarot deck, poetry, and recently I've become a translator. With David Vine, who's a scholar of ancient Greek, I translated Oedipus Rex. And I'm working on translation of the Tao Te Ching, which has certain similarities, at least in its feeling, and it's an imaginative quality to the tarot. The Tao Te Ching, not the I Ching, which is divinatory. The Tao Te Ching is a series of kind of like wise statements. They're not very long, which enables someone like me to try to make some sense of them. But it's really the imagination, the ability to inspire, to open up, to see where the magic is, that really keeps me going in everything I do. And currently I'm doing a Lenormand deck called the Burning Serpent Oracle with Robert Place, as you know. And that, too, is an exercise in seeing how these images can excite the imagination, seeing what we can find in them, using the traditional way of looking at it, and then trying to not go beyond it or change it, but open it up. And then imagination comes into practice as well. So I do a certain kind of magic, and that's, I guess, one of my secret identities. I suppose it'd be as a very low-level witch or magician. Low level because I don't have an interest in the incredibly deep levels of study you need to be a serious witch or magician, if you know what I mean. You have to study vast systems and memorize things. I'm not good at that. But certainly I do things in my own practice that are based upon what opens things up, what stimulates, what creates possibilities. So I hope that answers your question, Wald. I hope that
it
makes
does.
sense.
Not only does it answer my question, but it raises so many interesting issues.
Oh, good.
And even though our time here is short, in another time and another way, I'm going to ask you about those things. And
Okay,
we shall
great.
see what comes out of them, because there's so much in there. It's such a rich field of inquiry. So
Wonderful.
thank you so much, Rachel, for saying those things. And actually, those things are going to be probably very helpful in allowing the people that you teach to understand you. Because it's a two-way street, you know.
Yes, yeah.
The teacher has to understand the students, of course. But it's very, very helpful and probably extremely necessary in the long run, if a teacher is going to be effective, for the students to understand the teacher as well.
Yes, I agree with that. That's very true. Yeah.
So anyway, I want to thank you a great deal for doing this, and also for teaching a study group at the Reader Studio in 2014. We always look forward to your presence there.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, and you know what? Your presence there is actually something that everybody else looks forward to as well.
Thank you.
So we're really glad you're going to be there, and it won't be that long from now.
Yeah. And for me, it's the highlight of the year in tarot. I just love doing the Reader Studio.
I'm delighted to hear you say that.
Yeah,
well,
it's really a wonderful event.
Thank you, Rachel, once again, and thanks everybody for listening. Be sure, by the way, to visit readerstudio.com to learn more about the event. Readers is spelled with an S. Readers is a plural. R-E-A-D-E-R-S, and then comes the word studio. So it's readersstudio.com. So we'll see you in April.